What kind of difficulties that aspirants from now onwards will be facing? What kind of plan they should be adopting?
So the first difficulty they face is how to revise the entire syllabus in these 2 months' time. Second difficulty they will be facing is that it is not only about GS paper 1, CSAT is also becoming very, very difficult.
What kind of aspects that you want to suggest to specifically for the first timer students that how they can manage this particular thing?
Anybody who's cleared this exam will tell you that the first attempt was the best attempt. They might not have gotten through in the first attempt, but the kind of motivation and zeal you have, that is the highest in your first attempt.
So can you highlight certain kind of things so that student can also relate to that and they should be avoiding these kind of issues?
Aspirants they're going for UPSC Prelims right now. Prelims is very undefined syllabus. UPSC did not classify the subject. Even if you go into science, it's mentioned only general science. History is Indian history and relevance of history.
Hello everyone. So as less than 60 days are remaining for the UPSC Prelims examination, all of you we know that are facing multiple doubts and challenges regarding the UPSC examination. So to demystify all the kind of doubts and to get solutions regarding the same, I am joined by the fellow faculty members of Vision IAS. Hello everyone. So let's start with you, Pavan Sir. So roughly 60 days are remaining from now onwards. So what kind of difficulties that aspirants from now onwards will be facing regarding this particular 60 days and what kind of plan they should be adopting?
First and foremost, prelims examination is highly uncertain because the questions that are asked by UPSC are from far off areas. So the first difficulty they face is how to revise the entire syllabus in these 2 months' time. Second difficulty they will be facing is that it is not only about GS paper 1, CSAT is also becoming very, very difficult. Third difficulty they will be facing is how to identify the important areas, because they will not be able to answer all the 100 questions, because last year, also before last year, the cutoff is around maximum 45 questions, and they have to identify those things and they have to focus on those things and they have to maintain consistency. The next difficulty is that because there is so much of uncertainty, there will be a lot of insecurity in the minds of the students. Psychologically, they will be facing those problems. So they must have that peace of mind, and they must also focus on studying consistently every day. These are the major problems they would be facing.
Exactly. So how they can better manage these last 60 days?
First and foremost, they have to focus on consistently preparing for 8 to 10 hours per day.
Okay.
Minimum 8 hours. 8 hours of very sincere hard work. Second thing is that identify the areas. For example, there are 4 major parts: polity, economy, geography and environment, and history. So if they can identify these 4 areas and revise them consistently. Second thing is that they must focus on the CSAT. Every day they have to practice, at least for 1.5 hours CSAT. Third thing is that they should also focus on revising the previous year's questions. And fourth, they must focus on mock tests, because that is very important. For example, Abhyas, Vision's Abhyas, is one of the best in the business. If they do test themselves in this Abhyas, automatically they get the necessary confidence also.
Right. So as far as I can get from whatever you have suggested to the student, it's basically about covering the syllabus in an optimized manner. So Jasmine ma'am, as when the vast syllabus comes, the students are getting afraid because there is a tendency that till the time we are not perfect in any specific thing, we are not going to be very much confident about that specific thing. And specifically this issue occurs for the first timers because they are very new to the preparation. The kind of stress they are right now facing is humongous also. So what kind of aspects that you want to suggest to specifically for the first timer students that how they can manage this particular thing?
I think, Vishal, anybody who's cleared this exam will tell you that the first attempt was the best attempt. They might not have gotten through in the first attempt, but the kind of motivation and zeal you have, that is the highest in your first attempt, because you don't have that negativity of not getting through. Like we talk about the entropy coming in a system. So something like that. The aspirants who are doing it for the first time, what we find is a lot of times as they get closer to the exam, like 60 days before the exam maybe, they'll decide that, okay, we should not write this attempt. I'm not fully prepared, right? So there's that pursuit of perfection, that no, I've not covered everything. That we see so commonly happening with our aspirants. And at this stage, what I would really like to tell them is that Of course, people who've been preparing for a number of years, they'll have some advantage. They've revised the same thing a number of times, so the static part might give them a little edge, but I think the mindset would be the advantage of the fresher or the first time, the person who's attempting. At the same time, I also feel that when you are doing this for the first time, I feel they are more connected to that current affairs part also, because they're very diligently doing that. After 2 and 3 years, people find it a little tricky or taxing to do the current affairs part. So if there is a first timer, I think he can really make up in that current affairs part. That can be one very good point for him. He should think like that, and a person who has been writing should maybe have with that confidence that have revised things a little better. So every aspirant will come with his own set of advantages, and if you don't look at the good side, if you keep looking at what I am lacking in, then I think that will definitely lead to anxiety for all kinds of aspirants. So people who are writing this exam for the first time, they have to make sure that they test themselves. That's the real test, right? Like Sir has talked about Abhyas or all kinds of tests. That will give them the most reality check, and 60 days I feel is still, there is sufficient time to regain whatever you've studied, because I'm sure they've been studying for 1 year, and now if they can be positive, if they can be smart about it, there's still a very, very good chance of getting a very positive result.
Right. And also I think they are very, very fresh to the preparation, so there might not be any kind of preconceived notion about a lot of things, that how we need to arrange all the kind of things for this.
Yes, exactly. And that gives them that advantage, that they'll be giving equal attention to everything, right? They will not be thinking that, okay, maybe I leave this, and that slight level of anxiety or fear can be helpful in doing that. That I know that, okay, I have to cover ancient also, I have to cover medieval also, so I must have a good foundation in all portions. So that will give them a good advantage in the exam.
Definitely that is going to provide a lot of help to the first timers. But Ravi Sir, there are many students who are like, this point of time pe feels like there are a lot of things to be done, so they get trapped into a lot of pitfalls with respect to this particular preparation. So can you highlight certain kind of things so that student can also relate to that and they should be avoiding these kind of issues?
Sir, actually it is very common reason aspirants they're going for UPSC Prelims right now. Prelims is very undefined syllabus.
Right.
Only subject name mentioned, but still UPSC did not classify the subject. Even if you go in the science, it's mentioned only general science. History is Indian history and relevance of history. Geography is the Indian geography. So main problem those I found in my 2 decades of teaching, like students have a problem of relevant and irrelevant. Maximum students, they have a knowledge, but the problem is there what is relevant and what is not relevant. According to UPSC, they are suffering a lot. So first of all, here in this case, I advise to everyone, like even Vision also published the last 10 years of question papers according to prelims examination. So they should have to check them, like which focused areas are even more important according to UPSC prelims examination in the beginning. Later on, they should have to accumulate their own current affairs part according with our PT65. And even in PT65, if a student will see about the topics regarding every GS segment that is mentioned in the official websites. So definitely many of the current affairs topic, those already in this year even popular under PT65, so related that all the conceptual part as a static part, they should also have to connect with them smartly. Even here in that cases, our Vision magazine is so much better reason. In 365, agar you see the question, even topics. So after every topic, there are some boxes that there will already be mentioned about this static portion also. So this moment of time, even the 60 days of strategy plan, the best part they should have to see like 5 to 6 years what UPSC has done, and just they have to merge with the PT65. A part of like even every subject have some core areas where generally UPSC mostly focus the question papers. So they should have to understand. And this is the reason I said like about last 10 years of question analysis, those Vision has done is available on their own websites. They should have to check this last moment of time. Okay, and a part of this, like practices are very important. So even practice make people perfect. So perfectness 100% is still not required, because we are just Pavan Sir said like 45 questions is just a cutoff. So like they should have to think like around 50 to 55, 60 they stand or not. Even Madam said like anxiety, like this is very common. So definitely in the last moment of time, students should have to focus on them, like Even if they are religious, it's more good. They should go to temple. They should have to go for meditation. It is very common, sir. It's very common, and it's not even even in few students. Like it's very common with every student. Either the people even qualify UPSC or still not qualify UPSC. Everybody have a pressure. Okay, so a part of it, the last even here I will add on some more statement. Log abhyas, those our vision is providing. Even before examination, there is a 2-3 session of the abhyas will organized. They should have to go and check further. Like if they are lacking somewhere in the preparations, so still they have a time to improve their own knowledge in the certain subjects. So I think if they will integrate all the aspects, so definitely will be very beneficial in the last 60 days.
Exactly, and 2-3 pointers that you have highlighted first regarding this abhyas, like exactly checking yourself in the exam simulated
Definitely, sir.
environment.
Before examination, still a student feel like here I am lacking. So still they have a 60 days of time. They can improve and improve.
Vishal, I want to add one more pitfall. In fact, two things which I feel most aspirants might be missing out on, and they can be real game changers. That one is, like Sir has said, CSAT. CSAT is throwing a lot of people out, and I feel that's the biggest tragedy in UPSC. You might have 100 marks, and you might be through for GS because you kept on working on that, but you were maybe a little overconfident about your aptitude part. Now you're out of the game. So there's no point. You might be writing essays, doing so well, but it doesn't work. The second thing is, of course, like everybody, we all are talking about papers, not writing enough tests, right? Abhyas is one thing which you use, but I feel at least 10 full-length tests for GS and CSAT both. It could be previous year questions. For CSAT, they work very well. But otherwise, tests with current affairs, at least 10 full-length tests, every aspirant must be writing before they sit in the final prelims. This is a mistake they cannot afford to make.
And I think the time management that we keep on talking about with respect to this particular examination, for managing that in a better manner, I think tests are the best.
See, the thing here is that if they are sitting at home and doing the tests, they can get maximum number of questions right. But if they go to the examination hall and they will get most of the questions wrong because of that anxiety, pressure, fear. So that is where abhyas becomes very, very important. Because abhyas gives you that real examination kind of feeling.
And somehow, sir, it will also help us like throughout the India, this test is going to organize. Somehow they are getting their own ranking where they stand before examination. So in such a way, they will observe like and abhyas the maximum people I think throughout India they are going to join us. So somehow they can understand like where they stand. So still in the 60 days they can improve themselves.
And it gives them confidence also. If they are doing well in the abhyas, it gives them that kind of confidence, and when they go to UPSC, they can better their performance also. 100%.
So Pavan sir, like already we are discussing about abhyas, which is basically about the practice and initially adjust yourself to the actual exam like scenario. But then there are previous year's question also. So basically, as Ravi Sir has also highlighted about that previous year question keeps on telling us like what kind of things have to be prepared based upon that particular, if there is any kind of current affairs, so how to backtrack that particular thing. So we get to know from these previous year question. Now in this last 60 days, students generally feel maybe lack of time regarding preparation or practice on those particular previous year question. So how important you find these previous year question and practicing those before like last 60 days?
In fact, that is the most important thing they have to do. Take the case of polity only. They are asking 15 questions from polity every year on an average. Out of these 15 questions, you can see that at least 4 or 5 questions are repeated from previous years. I will just give you one example here. There was a question on right to privacy. Which article of the Constitution talks about right to privacy. It was repeated continuously for the last 3-4 years. So students don't want to lose marks because every single question can make a huge amount of difference. So I want them to do previous year's questions, take polity, take history, take geography, because there are some of them are static portions, and they keep on repeating the questions. I want them to do previous year's questions definitely.
And if we can like extend the discussion a bit further, like how an appropriate strategy should be in order to cover the previous year question. Should it be like student should be approaching year by year basis, or student should be first taking the maybe whatever subject he or she is covering, maybe the polity, maybe the science and technology or any other subject, like that manner?
I would prefer the second one, later one. For example, they have completed studying polity. In these 60 days, they are spending around 1 week on polity. Right. So the last day, they take the last 10 years of polity questions. Let them do it. If they are getting 80% of the questions right from polity, that means they are through to the prelims. That it gives them automatically the confidence.
Exactly. and sometimes we are like leaving certain portion of that particular subject considering that that is not that relevant now. So that particular thing also can be plugged with the PYQs. Right, sir. Another thing, Jasmine ma'am, that sir has also highlighted and we are discussing about is the current affairs, because that is going to play a very important role. Whatever kind of static questions that might be asked in this particular examination also, that might be, many such questions will be decided by what kind of current affairs was there. So last year, if I talk about the data, roughly 28 to 29 questions were directly or indirectly inspired by the same. So how, like, what do you think, like how a student can manage the static as well as current affairs preparation, and how both can be integrated?
So, current affairs is just, you know, what's happening today in that subject which you've already studied. You've studied about the governor, now you need to know what's happening with the governor today. And in terms of timeline, if I have to recommend, so I think till April, till the month of April, aspirants should try to cover current affairs. They need to be updated. Sometimes we have very recent questions also being asked. And strategy, I think this idea which Pavan Sir has brought out, that integrating questions with subjects, I think it works very well for current affairs also. We go with that assumption that aspirants have already been studying current affairs. Now it's time for them to revise, and revision can happen subject wise. Like when Sir says that you give 1 week for polity, you have to give some time every day for polity current affairs, right from the time which you have studied. The ideal thing is that at least 1 year, that means May 24 should be your starting point. In case you haven't been covering like that, then PT365 works wonderfully. It is a compilation of the whole year. It brings you content from January. It will help you revise quickly, and it is also in that subject-wise format. But you cannot really give days for current affairs, because current affairs is very factual. You cannot revise all of it. You cannot have like 1 week I'll revise current affairs, because that retention will be very, very weak. Plus you will not be able to connect. So while you are reading polity, you read current affairs of polity. When you're reading environment, you read current affairs of environment. That's the best way. And it has to be a part of your everyday schedule. That is very, very essential. You cannot really keep this for the last thing, because current affairs scares a lot of people because of the sheer amount of cramming they'll have to do, because this will have a lot of factual thing. It becomes easier also. Like if you're talking about the developments or the history of how climate change has evolved, then when you see, okay, now what's happening, you'll be able to connect. So that scary part will also go a little down. So that I think should be the strategy. Every day they have to allocate time. They have to give some time to their static part, and they have to give some time to the current affairs.
Right. And as you have talked about the integration of both aspects like current affairs as well as the static, so generally we are coming to know that if this particular current affair is there in news, for example, right now there is the classical language recognition to Marathi. So obviously the classical language itself will become important for this particular.
And there have been questions also.
Exactly.
At PYQs also to that.
Last year there was question about Garbha, the Hoysala temple architecture. Both of them were like the UNESCO's recognized site as well as the intangible cultural heritage. So that will become automatically important. So I think that integration is the most important thing that students should do.
Now, what normally they should be doing is that, for example, take the case of polity. They are reading something related to governor and or in Article 356, right, immediately related to current affairs. Right. It becomes easier for them to retain the things. Right. That's what exactly ma'am was also trying to say that one.
So whenever the election will be there, the presiding officer again and again, that particular term will be there in news. So, yes. So Ravi Sir, now a lot we have talked about the prelims examination, but even while discussing, we were like thinking from the perspective of students. So even the stress gets piled up whenever we think about any specific examination, be it the prelim stage, be it the main stage. So specifically when it comes to prelims, a lot of unpredictability surrounds the student. So what do you think, like how a student should be taking care of that particular stress and anxiety in the last 60 days?
Sir, it is very common with everyone. The reason, as in beginning I told, like massive syllabus. So here some maturity work even in UPSC examinations. Even there are so many of the aspirant those qualify UPSC, time to time they are coming in various platform and they are already telling like you should not have to worry about like everything you should have to prepare here. Okay, even the minimum requirement that is required in the UPSC preparation, it is very, very important. Even as I said in the beginning, like syllabus is not very classified, but still there are some core areas where UPSC made the questions. So this understanding is very, very important. As sir said, like any of the things are connecting with the current affairs, so they should have to connect with their own static parts. That is very, very important. And side by side here maturity works are in this examinations. Reason the lot of syllabus and classified syllabus is not easy to compile everything in their own brain. And the other part, the student should have to think like they should not have to mug up each and every fact on their own tip. The reason UPSC already giving the options as a B, C and D. It means if you have analytical power, then you can guess very easily. Even here in that case, I can tell like mains even little bit tough, because mains if you did not have remember all the name of schemes, programs, year and all, then you have a difficulty to write it. But the prelims though, I think if a student will start to think like option already mentioned there, if I have an understanding of the subject, I can guess very easily. So in such a way, if student try to think, though definitely UPSC will not look like a pressure.
Exactly.
But the main problem that I found, like many of the students, whenever they're entering the examination, what is the fact that I forget? What is the fact that they forget? Exactly. The problem they again they're going to forget the option is already written there, guys. So why they should have to think like every moment after you have to remember the fact and figures or not. Even whenever UPSC has any fact still, so UPSC asks the fact on the basis of concepts. Even a single concept, agar understanding you have, there is infinite fact you can guess it. So this is the one side. And second point in this examination, like self-motivation is very important. Okay, you should be always have motivate yourself. If you have doing the UPSC preparation, it means God has decided something for you. Neither there are so many people, they never thought like UPSC we should have to go. If you have taken the decision for UPSC, it means something, some stars and everything is in the favor of you. So these are some positive vibes that you should have to take, self-motivations, even the options already given there, why we should have to mug up the facts. There is a massive syllabus are there. We should have to even have prepare according to the current updates, what is there. So in such a way, if you student try, so they can take positive vibes in their own self. And time to time, definitely there are so many people in the surroundings. Maybe they are limited people. Even those definitely create the even positivity in aspirants. Like maybe their own mother, maybe father, maybe have their own any friends. So they should have to talk with them, because in this moment of time, due to massive syllabus, students definitely going to be negative. Okay, it's very common. So here self-motivation, talk to the people. Okay, meditation that I said here, and religious, temples, mosques, whatever you go. But everything is very, very important.
So I think the maintaining self-motivation,
Self-motivation.
keeping the positive mindset.
100%, sir, 100%.
And health. I think that's something which nobody should be ignoring at this time. Sir has given a very optimum suggestion. I hope aspirants can stick to that. 10 hours is a very reasonable number. If you can maintain that for 2 months, you might think that 10 is less, because after people get selected, they say huge numbers, right? Somebody will say 16 hours, 18 hours. I always tell people in the class, you can say any number, but you should know practically that's not possible. So you maintain the number of hours you have to study consistently, but you have to make sure you sleep. You have to make sure you sleep at night. This is another thing. Prelims is in the morning. So all those people who are nocturnal, it's time for them to shift to a day schedule. They have to write prelims at 9:30. And food, your diet, what you are eating, how much water you are drinking. These might seem like very small things, but they really help you stay calm and devoted and healthy to be able to go and write the exam.
And because the mind works in that particular manner only, that also needs certain amount of energy and the alertness, and that comes through the kind of food, the kind of like lifestyle you are living.
And last but not least, they must have confidence in themselves.
Even sir, sleeping, just madam said, it's really very important for the aspirants. If they will not sleep well, their brain is not going to charge for the next classes, next studies and all. So sleeping to recharge the brain is very important.
So all these things holistically will ensure that the student will be going with the alertness of the mind in the actual examination, and that student will be succeeded in the examination. So I think we have holistically tried to cover almost everything from the student perspective, that what student should be doing in the last 60 days. So thank you everyone for joining this particular discussion. Thank you. So here we are now concluding this particular discussion. We have tried to identify different kind of scenarios that student might be facing at this point of time, and tried to resolve that particular kind of issues. So that's all from our side. Thank you.